Child prodigies. They pack an awful lot of brilliance into one very small package. With Susan Spencer, we go inside their rarefied world.
Watching him play badminton with his dad, you'd probably figure Shiborno Bari for your typical 12-year-old kid. You'd be very wrong.
Math and physics is all you want to do?
Yeah, most of the time I'm having the most fun when I'm doing math and physics.
What is this really?
It's a circumscribed quadrilateral.
Indecipherable homework assignments that would mystify mere mortals are, well, child's play to Shiborno, something his parents marveled at early on.
He fell in love with math.
That's Shiborno's dad, Rashidul, also a mathematician. He says that by the age of 4, his son was stumping him with math problems.
You had a hard time doing what he was doing at 4?
He read all the books I had.
Wait, he's 4?
At that time, yes. And he was challenging me from the book that I wasn't able to give him a satisfactory answer.
So it's no surprise today to find Shiborno delivering university lectures in India, something he started doing at age 7. That's right, 7.
The natural assumption would be to write this. But is this correct? Does anyone have any ideas?
Since then, Shiborno has skipped multiple grades, scored a 1500 on his SAT, and at the ripe old age of 12,
believe it or not, but now I'm actually an NYU student.
No way!
Started college this past September at New York University.
Was it a big decision to go to college now, and how's it going?
It feels like just the next natural step. Most kids go to college after high school, so I said, why not me?
Most kids aren't 12.
I just got this ID, so, oh my God, it finally works. I've worked for this for so long.
One of the questions I had was whether or not this kid's going to have a really swelled head. But you don't. You seem to have a pretty balanced point of view.
I know it sounds strange because it sounds like you're talking to some business CEO on 60 Minutes that's like 35 years old, but instead I'm only 12. It feels like the voice isn't matching up with the person right in front of you.
Do you sometimes wonder at the fact that you're only 12?
Not really. I've seen my birth certificate.
We interviewed a 12-year-old math whiz. He got 1500 on his SATs. He did his first college lecture at age 7. Probably is on track to be a college professor by the time he's 16. That sound like a prodigy to you?
Yes, that is totally a prodigy.
Psychologist Ellen Winter is professor emerita at Boston College and a leading authority on child prodigies. She says virtually all exhibit something she calls a rage to master.
All the child wants to do, all the time, and not even wanting to go out and play. The kid wants to stay inside and work on whatever it is that that child is gifted in. I mean, these are kids that really live in their own minds.
Is this fairly obvious when you talk to these kids?
Yes, it is very, very clear, especially in certain domains. In music performance, in mathematics, in drawing realistically.
But there is one area where she thinks prodigies are overlooked because they excel at something a lot murkier. Art, but abstract art.
It's much harder to detect because the work doesn't look totally different from typical kids, but it doesn't look totally the same either. It's more complex, it's more structured.
So while we've all marveled at the obvious skills of math prodigies like Shiborno Bari, music prodigies, chess prodigies, what about young artists who seem to be following in the footsteps of, say, Jackson Pollock? August, what are you making?
I'm cutting out some shapes.
Meet 4-year-old August Gardner, Professor Winter's grandson, who has been obsessed with abstract art for most of his young life.
How many paintings has he done?
Oh, I mean,
hundreds. I mean, it's not always paint, too. I mean, there's paint and then there's sculptures
yeah.
and little drawings, and there's this whole mixed media thing.
Vanessa and Andrew Gardner are August's parents. Andrew is a former school teacher.
How does what he's doing compare to the scribbling of the average 4-year-old?
It's the drive. It's the desire to continue doing it and keep working, and the top-of-mindedness of it.
Then after I added these for the moves.
He's often incredibly deliberate. For a 4-year-old boy who, like, when he's not doing that, you know, he runs around like a maniac, like a lot of 4-year-old boys. But when he's working on his art, everything is very thought out and, you know, particular.
What did you start with first? Did you start with the bells or some of the colors?
That deliberate process is the hallmark of an abstract art prodigy, says Jen Drake, psychology professor at Brooklyn College of the City University of New York.
I like it because it has rainbow tape, my favorite color.
Drake, who's worked with Winter in the past, is now conducting a major study of art prodigies, and August is part of it.
I'm really struck by his focus. That one drawing he spent several days working on. That is definitely a rage to master, where their willingness to go back to the drawing to add something to it.
Some people might look at this and say, well, that's well and good, but let's look at the end result. Is that art?
I mean, that's a really a good question. And it's, I think because his work is abstract, it may be difficult to assess the skill in there, but there is a use of color and line and form that's not found in typical preschoolers.
And no matter what you think of August's art, Drake says his focus in making it is what really sets him apart. Are we talking prodigy?
I would say yes, definitely.
And August is in good company. Pablo Picasso was a child prodigy. In fact, from Mozart to Einstein to Stevie Wonder, the list of brilliant people who started young is long. But being a prodigy doesn't guarantee future greatness.
Most prodigies do not go on to be major adult creators in their area of giftedness.
That surprises me, really.
The reason is that being a child prodigy means you're mastering something that's already been invented. And to be a major adult creator, you have to go beyond what's already been done and develop something really new.
So how often do we get the Picasso or the Mozart?
Very, very rare.
But don't tell that to August just yet. And certainly not to math whiz Shaborno Bari. He's got his eye on a PhD by 16.
Then what happens?
So, I mean, I don't want to just be like a superstar for 5 years and then completely vanish and have videos made on me 10 years later saying, what happened to Shaborno Bari? I want to actually leave a mark that people will remember me for.
He's been called one of the greatest violinists of his generation, but there's a lot more to his story. Dr. John LaPook introduces us to virtuoso Augustin Hadelich.
It's not every day you get to see an 18th century violin up close.
So 1744 is when it was made, so not quite 300 years.
That instrument is in the loving hands of Augustin Hadelich.
It's, I think, natural to feel like some affection to the, even though it's a piece of wood, that we feel this affection to our instrument.
In the rarefied world of classical music, Hadelich stands out. At 39, he's a superstar soloist with the globetrotting itinerary and critical acclaim to prove it. The New Yorker magazine has called him an artist with no evident limitations. So central is the violin to his life that not playing it is not an option.
After a day or 2 or 3, my fingers start twitching and I just have to play something and I feel much, much better. After more than 30 years of playing the violin, it almost becomes something that you need, you know? It's a dependence.
About how old were you when you completely fell in love with it?
Maybe I was 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old.
By then, he was a child prodigy, giving concerts in his native Tuscany. By 11, he was performing with orchestras. For him, it was just part of being a kid.
Your parents give you a violin, you're like, great, you know, you take lessons, and you never really think about why do you play music, why are you a musician? And I think I maybe tackled that question earlier than I would have otherwise.
Hadelich had to tackle that question at age 15 when a fire broke out on his family's farm. He suffered extensive burns, and his chances of survival were unclear.
It was really very, very serious. But once it looked like I would make it, then I started thinking a lot about, but I probably won't be able to play the violin and the piano anymore.
His right hand, the one that holds the bow, was burned, but he regained use of it through surgery and therapy. His left hand, crucial to any violinist, was somehow spared.
Looking back at it, did it give you a different relationship with music? Did it give you a different perspective?
Before this fire, I was a child. There wasn't a need to really answer tough questions about what music means to me. There was no reason to ask myself that question. But then once if you realize you might lose it, that's I think when I realized how important it was to me.
Sitting just feet away as Augustin Hadelich breezes through Bach, you'll realize something too: the mysterious power of music to uplift and inspire.
Nobody knows exactly why we play music at all. You know, we get no evolutionary advantage from making music. For some reason, there's something that affects us very, very deeply and makes us feel things that are actually quite hard to put into words.
COVID hammered that home when this virtuoso accustomed to selling out concert halls serenaded social media audiences instead. He says the pandemic pause gave him a new appreciation for the joy of live music.
I think I cherish the moment on stage, playing for audiences even more than before. There's a special feeling in the air, and you somehow hear the music more and experience it more intensely. So yeah, I'm loving every moment of it.
Hello. Hi. What's happening?
I'm Jen, the principal. We've met before.
Hi, Jen, the principal.
Good to have you back home.
Good to see you. I'll give you a hug.
Oh, there you go. Welcome, Charlie.
I'm just giving hugs every day now. Let's go to the music room. I know there's two, but let's go to Wagner's first. It still smells the same.
My gosh.
What are you doing? What's happening? What's this?
This is not real.
Oh.
So you want to make sure that for the open tone, your fingers are together.
Hi. Hello. Whoa, don't knock me over. Hey, everybody. What are y'all doing? You good? What are y'all practicing right now? The bongo? Can I hear what y'all been doing, or is it like some sort of exercise? If you follow me, I'm really a piano player. See, Farstell's got rhythm. You're teaching them well. Levis, you need to hop on the piano or something. Or no, I'm gonna. Oh my God, this is mine. You know what I wrote on this song? You know what I wrote on this piano? I wrote the beginning of One Call Away on this piano. It used to be in E major. And it used to be faster, and then my friend was like, no, you should make it. That's my fake trumpet sound. Y'all want to sing it real quickly with me? Yeah. Okay. Ready? Do it with me. I'm only one call away. Levis is handling the rhythm.
I'll be there to save the day. Superman got nothing on me.
Y'all are good.
I'm only one call away.
You've improved since the years.
Call me baby if you need a friend. I just wanna give you love. Come on, come on, come on. Reaching out to you, so take a chance. No matter where you go,
Miss Wagner.
you know you're not alone. I'm only one call away. I'll be there to save the day. Superman got nothing on me. I'm only one.
You were picking it up. That's actually fantastic. Y'all are crazy. Wow. Give yourselves a round of applause. Wow. I appreciate all of you very much. Keep being motivated and just live life. And I promise you're going to get everything that you want out of this life. So, okay, we're going to look right at the principal's camera.
1, 2, 3. Nice job.
Wow. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming.
My guy. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye. Enjoy lunch.
She was a prodigy, schooled by the great Rachmaninoff. Some compared her to Mozart. Now, at age 97, pianist Ruth Slenczynska has a new album and much to share with our Moraka.
I'm old.
You're experienced.
What a lovely word.
97-year-old concert pianist Ruth Slenczynska has been playing for the public for more years than a piano has keys.
Where are you mentally during the recital?
I go to a place I can't take anybody. It's a place from where I get my music. I'm going to play for you Daisies.
And Ruth has been going to that place
I'm going to play a minuet in G major by Beethoven
since she was barely out of diapers. Here she is in 1930 at age 5. By then, Ruth was an old hand, hailed as one of the greatest child prodigies since Mozart. Born in Sacramento, she played her first concert when she was 4. She played Berlin at 6, Paris at 7, and along the way was mentored by some of the 20th century's greatest virtuosos, including Russian composer Sergei Rachmaninoff.
It's a Fabergé egg.
Ruth still wears the necklace Rachmaninoff gave her after she filled in for him at a concert when she was 9.
You were called the miracle child.
Every child is a miracle, really.
But you were an awesomely talented one.
I wasn't. No. If I were talented, I wouldn't have had to work so hard.
Working hard is putting it lightly. From the age of 3, her Polish immigrant father, a violinist frustrated by his own limited success, forced Ruth to practice for 9 hours a day.
I would be practicing and hearing from the street my sister's calls as they were playing with other kids. I wanted to be one of those kids who played. And if I didn't practice, I was chased around the apartment with a stick. My father's magic stick. I didn't want that.
She quit performing at age 15 and later ran away from home. She got married, then divorced, and to make ends meet, started teaching before returning to the concert stage in her late 20s.
How did your relationship with playing change? Were you falling more in love with it?
Oh, it just grew. And I kept playing bigger and better and going to different parts of the world.
She began recording albums and appeared on TV. In 1963, she paid tribute to Rachmaninoff on CBS's Camera 3. Among her many fans, an American president with whom she once played a duet.
How was Harry Truman on the piano?
Good, really good, and he was so personable.
She says President Truman summoned her to the White House when she was in Washington for a concert.
The place was crowded with people. I thought he played very musically, and they all applauded, and he took a bow. Then these two men came and pulled me away, still flabbergasted halfway down the hall. I said, I didn't even get a picture of it.
Ruth later got this autograph, which she donated, along with other memorabilia, to Southern Illinois University Edwardsville, where she served as artist in residence and met James Kerr, the love of her life.
How much did your life change when you met your second husband?
Well, it changed completely. I became a real person. I'd marry him again, all over again.
They were married for 34 years before his death in 2001. They had no children, but Ruth's legacy lives on through her students, including Shelley Moorman Stallman, a professional musician and teacher in her own right.
What has Ruth taught you about teaching?
It's important to impart upon young students and students of all ages this sense of being a part of the past. They're larger than themselves.
Ruth is more than a teacher. She's become family and lives with Shelley and her husband Randy near Hershey, Pennsylvania.
She believes that you don't look back, you gain from the past, but you're always looking forward. And I think that was her secret to success in so many ways.
Which explains her new album. With My Life in Music, Ruth brings fresh perspective to favorite compositions from Bach to Barber. Back at home, Ruth Slenczynska regaled me live with a favorite encore of hers. Chopin's Waltz in C-sharp minor.
Are you more in connection with the inside now when you play than you've ever been before?
Well, I certainly can say more because I've experienced more than I did when I was young. A person 60 years old has experienced a lot of living, and a person 20 years old has not.
And a person 97 years old.
There you are.
Brava.
Look at Jack and say something nice about him.
I'm sorry. There's just too much baggage between us.
As the witty and bossy Diane on the hit sitcom Blackish.
Look, Aaron, I'm a 10, and what we have is electric. I don't have time to play games. I need to practice my violin.
Marsai Martin is a rising star.
You see this? Yeah. This is where the stuff would go if I had a glue stick.
For a lot of child actors, fame and fortune would be enough. But it looks like Martin is after something bigger.
I started to think about like all the young little black girls that look like me is not really seen on TV a lot.
She says she's out to change the industry and taking matters into her own hands.
But that's the reason why I made this production company, was because so people, like everyone, could feel welcome, and just to create more films for everyone, and that's very diverse and inclusive.
What does it make you feel like when you see all of this?
It's crazy.
Believe it or not, at age 14, Martin is the face and co-founder, okay, maybe with a little help from her parents, of Genius Productions in Los Angeles.
Picked it all out yourself?
Not all of it, but blue is my favorite color.
I love that. And here we have more blue and the beautiful blue logo.
And this is just the beginning.
You went to bed grown and then you woke up
little.
Next month, her movie Little hits theaters.
Get back to work.
Whose child is this walking around here in a tiny pink pantsuit?
Martin not only acts in the film, she's one of the executive producers, making her one of the youngest in Hollywood history.
I thought it was shocking because I thought there was more kids doing what I was doing. So me being the first was kind of crazy, but inspiring, you know?
No! Ding dong! Ding dong!
Little is the story of a nightmarish boss played by Regina Hall.
Were you always mean? I got big and I got rich.
Who wakes up in the body of her teenage self, played by Martin.
I feel like you get me.
Really? I feel like I get you too.
So you feeling what I'm feeling?
No, I'm not feeling that at all. Don't look at me like that.
How did you get the idea for the movie Little?
My mom's favorite movie was Big, starring Tom Hanks. I was like, what if we do this in like a different perspective, like in a modern perspective, put like a different twist on it, and maybe have an all-black cast.
And how old was she when she came up with that idea?
I was 10.
You was 10? Oh my
I was
goodness.
10.
And I wonder.
Hey, baby.
Martin might be young, but she's been at it a long time.
I've been doing this for basically all my life.
Baby, you wanna love.
Drawing inspiration from some of the greats, like Beyonce.
I see the love in you.
And, well, Ray Charles. Martin started off doing commercials in her hometown of Plano, Texas. But when the family moved to Los Angeles, she got her big break.
Wait, be careful, ready?
Her parents, Joshua and Carol Martin, insist that being a child star hasn't taken the child out of her, particularly when she's with little sister Sydney.
I think that we just kind of let her know that this is what she does, but it's not who she is.
Absolutely.
So just to keep that separation, then it, you know, she still has chores. She gets in trouble like every other
She
teenager.
gets in trouble?
I mean,
Yes.
newsflash.
He is so into you.
You're saying that like you're surprised. But you should know by now, Jack. I'm undeniable.
As for any other moguls in the making, Marseille Martin has a little advice.
I know everyone says it, but just believe in yourself.
No, that's a big thing.
It's really a big thing, because it really all starts with you, you know, and speak your mind. And for the parents, just listen, you know, listen to your kids, because they have like a different mindset. They have a whole new world that they're looking at.
E equals MC squared. It's synonymous with Albert Einstein. His mind-bending theories have long been the stuff of textbooks. Now Faye Saley tells us his equations and his personal life have become the stuff of a TV series.
In scientific circles, stars don't get any bigger than Albert Einstein. Not on this planet, anyway.
Einstein was the first great scientific celebrity. So beginning in the 1920s, he would come to America. Crowds would come out to see him. It was pretty odd for a theoretical physicist.
Walter Isaacson has chronicled the life of Albert Einstein, who was born in Germany in 1879.
He's brilliant, but he's also like your uncle. He can't quite remember where he's left his shoes, and he needs to know the rules of baseball, and he's fun with kids, helping them. He wasn't some strange genius from a different planet. He was human.
Einstein's genius is the subject and title of a new series on the National Geographic Channel. It stars Jeffrey Rush as Einstein.
Now catch me!
And Johnny Flynn portrays the scientist as a young man.
When you were traveling the speed of light alongside the wave.
It turns out, Einstein's life was as unconventional as his theories.
Einstein was a total rogue in his personal life. He was a runaway. He always got in trouble with his teachers, falls in love with this wonderful physics student. They have a child before they're married. All of these things are this rebellious, impudent nature, which I think also leads him to challenge the basic tenets of science.
Einstein upended more than 200 years of scientific thinking when he uncovered the mechanics of gravity in 1915.
Everybody thought that gravity was basically an old
subject completely figured out by Isaac Newton, the old apple falling on the head thing.
Columbia University physicist Brian Greene.
Here comes Albert Einstein and says, I have a radically new way of thinking about gravity. Newton's is just an approximation to this more spectacular picture in which space and time warp and curve.
Electricity, magnetism.
Greene brings to life Einstein's quest to uncover the structure of the universe in a theatrical production called Light Falls.
Einstein is hot on the trail of the general theory of relativity. And I gotta tell you, as I read these pages as a physicist, even though I kinda know how it all turns out, I'm cheering Einstein on.
Einstein's general theory of relativity was so revolutionary and new that it triggered a lot of old-fashioned bigotry.
There were Nobel laureates who described it as Jewish physics. But in the end of the day, data is what speaks in science. Doesn't matter what you think, what you believe. If your ideas make predictions that are borne out by observations or experiments, the community of scientists looks and says, that's the right direction to go.
I do not permit anything.
In 1933, Einstein was visiting the U.S. when Hitler seized power. Instead of returning to Germany, he settled in Princeton, New Jersey, where he lived until his death in 1955. To this day, we have Einstein to thank for GPS, solar panels, weather forecasting, digital cameras, and even the dawn of the nuclear age.
Most of us think of science as, well, it's the cold, hard facts. But Einstein was there with heart and soul.
Scientists should be heroes. They're real people. They're magical, and they have a certain beauty to what they do.
Over the years, we've profiled no small number of musicians and composers. But as Lee Cowan explains, none of them are quite like the young man you're about to meet.
We've heard it said, where words fail, music speaks. And you're about to meet someone who understands that sentiment better than most.
He has a whole world and a whole life within his brain that for him is completely normal.
20-year-old Jacob Rock is living with severe autism. He's among the roughly 30% of people on the spectrum who are unable to develop functional speech.
He says yes and eat.
That's it.
That's it.
He lives in Los Angeles with his father, Paul Rock, and his mom, Lisa Newman. She's a little camera shy. But they both say Jacob's frustration of being unable to communicate sometimes resulted in self-harm.
He would punch himself in the face. He's very forgiving, but he gets angry when people ignore him or people pretend he's a child. That's really gets him.
I mean, it's got to be lonely for him, but it's lonely for you too.
Yeah, well, you always wonder what's going on.
Speech and music therapists, neurologists, they all try to unlock a way for Jacob to communicate. Now, typing was one way. For 7 long years, everyone, including his mom, who was a third-grade teacher, tried to help him use a keyboard.
There you go.
But Jacob's progress was slow. Some of his school teachers assumed it was because Jacob had a low IQ. His dad, who worked from home, never believed that. They spent hours together watching Jeopardy, and he says Jacob always seemed to be absorbing it all. And then there was music.
He got a piano. He would play it all the time. Rudimentary. He doesn't actually play.
Paul, a music events producer, always had classic rock playing in the house. And for Jacob, the louder the better.
The whole autism trope of they hate loud noises is true probably for many kids, but not for him.
In 2020, smack in the middle of the pandemic, Paul began working almost every day on Jacob's typing skills. Now, for 16 years, everyone, including Paul, had been calling him Jake. But on this day, he surprised everyone by typing that he'd had enough.
He wanted to be called Jacob, not Jake.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
It was the first time he'd typed out a full sentence unprompted. By the time we showed up almost 2 years later, Jacob was pretty chatty.
I am calm, and I want to say that being the happy subject of this piece is very exciting.
He uses a text-to-speech app on an iPad.
I am so interested in going to the garage to see.
It's a form of augmentative alternative communication that allows him to type out words and sentences, which are then played back. He took us into his bedroom, full of musical instruments. And when we asked him to play something for us, he gave us a very teenage response.
I am damn great at this when no one is here, but I am nervous.
Jacob's ability to type was like water on fertile soil. He began communicating in ways even his dad wasn't really prepared for.
So he started typing poems. It was very emotional poetry and very beautiful poetry, and expressing his feeling that, this is my life.
And it turned out that life also had a secret soundtrack. 6 months after he started typing on that app, Jacob announced that he had a symphony in his head, a full 90-minute, 6-movement orchestral composition that he wanted to get out.
Damn calm when I have my symphony to listen to, because really the sounds of my brain are on the screen.
He called it Unforgettable Sunrise.
Why the title? That's his Unforgettable Sunrise, which is typing and expressing himself.
Jacob couldn't play music, he couldn't read music, he certainly couldn't score it. So how did something as complex as a multi-part symphony get from Jacob's brain to the page?
I thought, please don't ask me.
Why?
It was scary. It was an enormous task.
Rob Lawfer, a musician and friend of the family, agreed to try.
It became clear that Jacob could not communicate actual notes to me, but he was hearing definite melodies and he could not communicate it.
Jacob would painstakingly type out detailed instructions for every measure, every movement.
G, O.
In the beginning, he wanted 5 piano bangs. How long? And he goes, well, the first one lasts for 5 seconds. The next one lasts for 10 seconds. And he just had it really clear in his head. I mean, like the seconds.
As for the notes themselves, Jacob would describe them in terms of an emotion or an image.
He wanted a 5-minute mountain of sadness. And I was like, yes, I can do that.
If anything, what his music communicates is that Jacob's inner life is often in turmoil.
He wanted the horns to come in really abrasive, but then they go to a uplifting, joyful, they fill the air with sweetness, but then it goes back and forth. Sweet. Chaotic. I wish we could hear what's in his head. This might be close, I don't know. Every time he made a change, it lifted the thing up and made all this sense.
There's been a long debate about whether nonverbal people like Jacob are actually typing on their own or whether their communication is being facilitated by hopeful parents or caregivers.
Because there are a lot of people who discount the communication that goes on with the typing.
They think it's not real.
They think it's not real. And then he pulls out his index finger and he just types out each letter one at a time.
In fact, during our conversation, Jacob became visibly frustrated because he feared his typing wasn't clear enough.
I am angry that damn ability to type is not always as good as I want, yet I want to tell my story.
Oh, you're doing great. After 2 years of composing and arranging, Jacob and Rob finally had the music down on paper. Through Paul's nonprofit, the Wild Honey Foundation, Paul raised $110,000 to bring it to life, including having the University of Southern California's 55-piece orchestra perform it. In the audience that night were others living with autism. One of them even wrote Jacob a fan letter. I also typed to communicate, it read. I enjoyed your show beyond words. They met, and Jacob now says he's composing a musical just for her. This one he's calling Happy Love.
I think most great creativity is by people who are marginalized, and they feel that intensity
That pain?
The pain, just a desire to create and express that pain. And I think when you can't speak, you've got that in spades.
Steve Hartman has a story that can only be described as grand.
To 11-year-old Jude Kofi of Aurora, Colorado, this surprise was music to his eyes. Obviously, whoever said the best things come in small packages was never gifted a grand piano. Jude's father, Isaiah.
So one day it just shows up at the house?
Yes, all for free. Who does that?
The answer in a moment.
Moses?
But first, the reason. About a year and a half ago, Jude's dad heard a noise coming from the basement. There was an old keyboard down there, but no one knew how to play it. Certainly not his autistic son, Jude. Or so he thought. Isaiah then got Jude a larger keyboard to see what more he could do. And boy, could he do. The kid never had a lesson. No one taught him any of this.
How do you explain that you're as good as you are?
It's a miracle.
You think it's a miracle?
That's what I prefer.
Bill Magnuson prefers that too.
Is he special?
He's beyond special. He's Mozart level. It's coming from somewhere beyond.
Bill is a piano tuner. He saw a local news story about Jude, heard him play, learned how his parents immigrated from Ghana, how they're raising 4 children and sending money back to Ghana.
What resources are left over to help this special little soul?
Yours.
Yeah.
Using an inheritance from his father, Bill bought the piano, spent $15,000. He has promised to tune it once a month for the rest of his life.
Very nice.
And he's even paying for Jude to get professional lessons.
We're family now.
Somebody to just love your son like that by making sure that his future is secured. We are super thankful. Yeah.
Press the pedal.
Caring for other children as your own, the defining note of humanity.